Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
I'm going to introduce our South Florida audience. Actually, as it goes on YouTube, it could be all over the world. But Francis Nelson BEEBE, who is the chef and owner of Mr. Nelson's Cookies, is not just an ordinary chef or an ordinary guy. And we're going to find out how this all came about. So welcome to our show, Francis.
Anita, thank you very much. I'm most pleased to be part of your show and, of course, with your listening audience.
Yeah, well, I wish that this was smell-o-vision because they could smell those cookies. Are you baking them now?
I am. A baker's life is early, so I was at the bakery about 5:15 this morning, and the cookies were baked, and now it's in the process. It takes about 3 hours for them to cool, so they're in the process of cooling before I go back and wrap them and package them and send them out to several addresses all over the United States.
So what made you do this?
Anita, thank you for asking. And really, what it was a story of personal reinvention and a passion for actually making the perfect chocolate chip cookie. I retired 14 years ago from a very successful 30-plus year career with a very large consumer product company. And I moved from Cincinnati and immediately, along with my wife, attended and graduated from the Cordon Bleu here. And very, very rigorous. It was a 2-year program. And it was amazing. I probably should have gone and taken a few lessons at Sir Latab instead. But as a result, my wife and I actually are Cordon Bleu trained chefs. And we did it for family and friends. Of course, what were we thinking? And then we moved to actually the East Valley of the Phoenix, Scottsdale area, which was about 30 minutes east of Scottsdale. And we built a home and did what most retired people do, except we entertained quite a bit because of our professional culinary skills. And as you can imagine, a lot of people like coming to our house for dinner. So after about, probably about 8 years of doing that type of entertaining, and then playing an awful lot of golf, almost to the point of 200 rounds a year. I'm literally standing over a 4-foot putt that I don't want to miss. And I said, this is nuts. I was 64 at the time, and I want to reinvent myself because I felt like I was 45. But I had to really want to do something commercially with my culinary skills. And plus, I had a lot of skills from my consumer product days. But it had to be something unique. It had to be limited production. It had to be an artisan-based business model that only needed one person to run. And yet it would appeal to a large segment of the U.S. population, and it could be powered by social media because I'm basically a one-man band and a one-trick pony. So at the end of this vision, you have one classically trained chef, which is me, one extraordinary chocolate chip cookie recipe, which I'll tell you about in a second, and a business that is basically powered by Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and YouTube. So that having been said, that was 2.5 years ago, and the business is beyond expectation, and if I was any happier, I would be driving the clown car to circus.
That's a wonderful thing to say. So I'm thinking about this. Now, first, let's go back to the recipe. So how'd you get the recipe?
Well, actually, the recipe was a function of I was a single dad to my son for a lot of years. And I developed, he and his buddies just loved chocolate chip cookie recipes. And, of course, they would eat anything short of a road patch. So I literally went through, it's like a Frankenstein type of cookie where I took this recipe, that recipe, and put it together. I didn't like it, but they didn't care. They just ate thousands of them. And I eventually created a recipe that I thought was just off the hook. I thought it was just crazy how good it was. Well, as time passed, I just put it in my back pocket, and as events came around, people would say, "Hey, why don't you create why don't you make some chocolate chip cookies for this event or that family gathering or whatever?" And it was always the raves, and I just put the recipe in my back pocket, and I never meant to be clandestine about it, or it was just kind of a joke that when I died, no one was going to say who has his will, but did you get the recipe? And that kind of mentality. So with that, this was all part of the reinvention and saying, I have something really, really unique. And here's some statistics: 90% of all people like cookies. There's for the other 10%, some's just a taste issue, or there could be just dietary issues. You can't tell. But of those 90%, 60% of all people choose chocolate chip cookies as their first choice.
Right.
The second is oatmeal at a distant 15%. So why would you chase anything other than 60% of the entire market? And it's interesting because chocolate chip cookies are pure American. I don't know if you kind of know the story that just, indulge me a minute, but in the 1930s, a gal by the name of Ruth Wakefield, her and her husband in Whitman, Massachusetts, bought a tourist lodge. And of course, being in the Northeast, there was such thing as toll roads. Well, they actually called it the Toll House Inn. And she was an excellent cook. And many people came and would patronize their inn and come for dinner. Well, she was always looking, as most cooks do, for new and exciting things, and of course that included desserts. And this is where there's kind of a why in the road. The original story is that the chocolate chip cookie was made by mistake, and then Ruth later said, "No, I actually made it myself." So, you don't know, but in all fiction there is some fact, I guess. So, what the one story is that she made a butter cookie. And she had added, she didn't have the chocolate powder, and she added chocolate, not morsels, but actually chips from Baker's chocolate. And then she thought, that when she cooked the dough, it would melt. Well, it didn't melt. And as a result, ergo, the chocolate chip cookie. And her patrons just went crazy about it. So she actually, had created a recipe book. And the Toll House, Ruth Wakefield's Toll House recipe book. And it was like an 8 printings. And people just liked that because as we were an agricultural-based country at that point in time, and a lot of good home cooks. And in addition to that, this was like in the late 1930s, we started going to the war years. Well, moms and grandmoms, aunts, and that type of thing created chocolate chip cookies that they would send their sons or nephews, their grandsons, that type of thing, and one thing just led to another, and it just became, I say, an overnight success. Was probably a couple years, but the fact is that it became very, 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 very successful. And who enters but Nestle? And Nestle entered an agreement with her, and saying, "Look, Ruth, give us your recipe. We'll pay you $1 plus all the chocolate you could ever use in your lifetime." And I think she kind of sold out cheaply, but there you go. And she did. And later, it wasn't until later that actually Nestle created the iconic, teardrop, if you will, morsel that went into the chocolate chip cookie. So where I guess I'm going with this thing is why chocolate chip cookies? I don't think there's an American, I'm exaggerating to make a point, that doesn't have a wonderful, wonderful memory of coming home after school on the worst day of their life, broken heart, whatever it happens to be, and there were chocolate chip cookies that had just, Toll House cookies that had just come out of the oven. So as a result, it's American creation, it's an American love story. And I believe with what I've done, I've taken that love story and put it on steroids. And as a result, there's a lot of people that often obviously agree with me. So as I said, passion, I say I'm focused. My wife says I'm anal. So that having been said, at the end of the day, I make every cookie personally. There's no dough former. The 288 cookies are handmade every day.
Do you speak to them?
I'm sorry, please?
Do you speak to them?
Do I speak to them?
Yes.
Let me tell you something. I have a love affair with just about every piece of machinery I have in my, and it's so funny because we kid about it being, my wife and I kid about them being my employees. And so as a result, she said, well, were there any uprisings at the bakery today? And I said, no. And interesting enough, my machine that wraps the cookies in the polypropylene, like pillow pack,
right?
Which you've seen, is called a horizontal flow wrapper. Right? As no big surprise. I mean, I go back to the focus versus anal. I spent an awful lot of time finding the correct machines that we need for this business, and I found this one in Montreal. So I've created a terrific relationship with a company called ANITA in Montreal, Canada, and they sold me this machine. I went for a couple of days. They made me smarter, learn how to do it. Anyway, I nicknamed him Pierre, and so as a result, sometimes Pierre is just a little prickly, and you just have to talk to him just right. But that having been said, he does a terrific job day in and day out. So, I'm not sure this is the interview you expected, but
no, it's what I wanted.
Again, Anita, I'm just giddy, relative. I can't wait to get up in the morning. And I had a terrific, and I put as many terrifics as you want, career. I came right out of grad school, and terrific career with the consumer products company I was with, and I told my wife, I said, at my eulogy, which I hope is many decades away, I said, spend about a minute talking about what I accomplished those 30 years. Spend most of the time about my love for the perfect chocolate chip cookie,
right,
and that I made people happy.
Well,
Because you can't have something like this in your hand and not have a smile.
That's true. Well, let me just say that my husband's 93, and he never in our freezer. We put him in our freezer. Never do we not have a box of chocolate chip cookies. We buy it from the grocery store because at night, after he drinks his wine with dinner, or watching the TV or something, he wants a chocolate chip cookie, whether it's with some sherbet or something. Now, I like my chocolate chip cookies with a glass of cold milk, like you were saying when you come home. So everyone has their own special story, but I want to go a little further with this. Now, let's say the cookie is perfect. It's the way that you get it, the way that you have created this. And it's like, I always call it this Tiffany box. I buy things at Tiffany because I want to give someone that box with the beautiful way that they wrap it. Well, when you get a box of and this is cute too because it's called Mr. Nelson's Cookies. When you get his box, which contains, I think, 6 cookies, correct? Or is it 6 or 8?
Well, it can be 6. It can be 6 or 12.
Okay,
just
6.
Think of the compartments could have 2 cookies in each one versus the one that I sent you.
Right. Okay. And some are gluten free, but it didn't matter. But let me just say, first you get the box and it scares you. It's so beautiful. What did I order? I didn't order something like this. And then you open this huge box because everyone's, what'd you get? What'd you get? You open it up, very mysterious. And then you pull out this, it's like a jewelry box almost. You pull it out, and here are these gorgeously wrapped chocolate chip cookies. Now, this is perplexing because it's like, well, I'm not going to eat these because they're special. I've got to give them to somebody. I mean, I wouldn't eat any because they are so beautiful, the whole presentation. I mean, it is absolutely mind-boggling for what you have done. And the fact that now you have it as a company, I would call, it's I don't know what you kind of a company you call yourself. I don't want to call it a one-man band, but it's, and nobody knows.
Anita, that's what it is. I mean, the least
band.
common denominator, I am a one-trick pony and a one-man show, and it's interesting because that's the beauty of the country we live in these days, that's the beauty of being in America, that you can do I'm 68 now, soon to be 69, and I'm more relevant now in my life than I was 25 years ago, and I guess the operative word is relevance, and to the extent that you hear passion in my voice, it's there's nothing artificial about it. It's just like, there's just like this awakening, and you go, can this actually be true? And it's interesting you said about the gift. When I originally created my business plan, I estimated, and you didn't know, or I didn't know. I said 80% will be gifts. Well, actually, it's ended up to be closer to 95% of all of my orders are gifts. And the reason I know that is you saw the card that was in your package.
Mm-hmm.
I handwrite every card. So I know, obviously, what's a gift and what's not a gift. So I'm not the equivalent of Dear Abby, and I certainly keep all my some of the comments that you get sometimes, you kind of raise your eyebrows, but the fact is that they are gifts. And my mentality was that there's 365 special birthdays a year. There's 365 special wedding anniversaries a year. There's 365 get well soons a year. So the point being that people are saying, you know what, you really need to go on Shark Tank. And of course, I just smile and thank them. But the truth is, I had lived in my corporate career in a Shark Tank, and it wasn't really very much fun.
Right. You don't need a Shark Tank.
No, and it's funny because they don't realize the business model changes. And the reason that people are in Shark Tank is to get money from venture capitalists. Well, guess what? Venture capitalists actually expect a return.
Yes.
They actually expect to have input. And right now, I used to, in my other life, I used to go to meetings to decide whether you're going to have a meeting. And now, you literally look in the mirror and say, well, what do you think, Nelson? I think it's a good idea, and there you go. I mean, at the end of the day, Anita, it's just cookies, and it's called how do I make, you're going to spend your hard-earned money on sending something that's really special. And it's my responsibility to believe that it's not your aunt or your uncle or your cousin. It's my aunt, my uncle, or my cousin.
Right.
That's how I approach. Plus, with every one of my cookies, I have a 90-year-old mother, lives by herself in South New Jersey, plays bridge 3 times a week. She's like the Energizer Bunny.
Right.
And I make every cookie as if she's going to eat it.
Oh.
I mean, that's how I think about it. So that's the litmus test. And if you were to come into my bakery, I think you'd love this. It's a 1,400 square foot commercial bakery. Again, I'm the only employee. And it's interesting because the first time that the what's called Pinal County came in to do their environmental health inspection, they were there for about an hour and a half. I mean, they were just looking at every nook and cranny. And the lady came, and not a word was said, and she came to me and she said, well, I've got 2 comments. I'm going, geez, I'm a cordon bleu trained chef. I think I did this right. And she said, I can't decide whether I should buy my cookies here or have my appendix taken out.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so it's so funny, and she smiled. So I think that's the closest that environmental health people get to humor.
Right.
Because they can't. She said, you can't imagine what I said. And of course, I have an inspection multiple times a year versus a normal restaurant because I am technically a food processor. And now they come in, and it's a bright spot of their day. Because she said, you can't imagine what I see. And I told her the same story I told you, that a cookie wouldn't go out the door that I wouldn't serve to my 90-year-old mom.
And I know a lot of people want to know how they can order these cookies. So I don't want to end the show without doing it. So what is your website again? Is it Mr. Nelson's Cookies?
Well, it's www.Mr. Nelson's with an S, cookies with an S.com.
Okay.
And the only caution I give you, that we've done a total redo, and I say we. My son, remember the guy I made this cookie recipe for? He and I are as close to being best friends as we are, obviously, parent-child. And he has his own very successful business, but he also does a lot of the marketing for me. And so they said, you know what, Dad, I think we need to review the website. So the website is going through a total redo. It should be live in about in about 4 days. So I just ask the patience of your listeners. But no, also the number that is on the website is my cell phone. So I'm pretty sure who'll answer the phone. So if anyone needs anything, and God forbid you wouldn't be happy, that's real simple. I want you to like my cookies. So the website again is www.mrnelsonscookies.com. I'm on all social media, and so if you get a chance.
I wanted to ask you about that. So anyway, I just want to make sure everyone knows when you get our November issue, which has just now been printed, you'll see a picture of the wonderful little stack of cookies. That's not the way it looks when it comes to you, but they're gorgeous. And you'll see some milk. And then you go inside and you'll see a picture of this beautiful Mr. Nelson. And so it's we were very happy to do this.
You are much, 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 much too generous. And
don't do this casually.
You're such a delight. And to the extent that I can be helpful to any of your listeners, like I said, I know who will answer the phone.
Yeah, that's true, and we're not large, but we know we have about 3 or 4 people, but we feel like you in our sense of what we do. I'll tell you what would be magnificent. Maybe we do expos. Maybe we always give beautiful gifts away. Maybe we'll just beg you for one box so that we can give it as one of our gifts for somebody.
It would be my pleasure. You just tell me how to make that happen.
All right,
I'll talk to the board of directors, Anita, but I'm pretty sure it'll be okay.
I'll tell you what. But I do want to. I got that. But this is what I want to ask you. So now, how did you know that? How did you first start to? You made your cookies, and then did you make the box that's right after that, or did you start with the cookies alone? What was the evolution of this?
Well, of course, the cookies. I knew the size of because, like I said, I had that recipe in my back pocket. And so I pretty much knew. But I remember, my consumer products 30 years. I had 3 different functional careers. I had a career in sales, one in marketing, and one in logistics for the same company. So. I'll tell you, the name of the company is Procter Gamble. So that having been said, you went to Procter Gamble University. You learned an awful lot from package design, the whole type of thing. And of course, I've also found it's really important to surround yourself by smart people, and the people that I talk to in terms of graphic design and stuff. I knew what I wanted. Candidly, the box. You made an interesting point. When you walk into a Nordstrom's or Neiman Marcus or one of the upscale department stores, one of the first things you walk into would be the cosmetic department. And when you look at all of that space being given to 2 and 4 and 5 and 6 ounce bottles, that is basically fragrant water, right? And the first thing, assuming you don't have a preferred scent, what are you attracted by? Well, the fact is you're attracted by the packaging. Mm-hmm. You think about all the money that's spent with Chanel, Boucheron, Michael Kors, in terms of the packaging, in terms of it being very, very seductive looking, in terms of saying, gee, I really, if it smells as good as it looks, I think that's what I want. My objective, as I created in the business plan, was to create packaging that if Nordstrom's decided to put chocolate chip cookies in their cosmetic department, that it would be at peer with Boucheron, Michael Kors, or Chanel. And that's the way I thought about it. And here's a funny sidebar to this. That is, we're going to be running a contest in the not-too-distant future because, Anita, nobody throws away their box because they use it for something else. I've been told they use it for stationery. They use it for costume jewelry. They use it for kids' Legos. I don't know. But it's called, we're going to have a contest. It's called, what did you do with your box? and because, you told me, well, this is too good to throw away.
That's right.
So what a compliment, in the sense that, you're called, the objective. And because I wanted literally the quality, the quality of the box, the appearance of the box to mirror the taste, the extraordinary taste and texture of the cookie.
Well, you did it.
Well, thank you. I didn't want you to be disappointed, and it's because, like I said, when people spend money, sometimes it goes into like a black hole, and you go, you didn't hear anything. I have a couple of corporate customers, not many because I have such limited capacity, and they said it's interesting when they send these as gifts. These are people that don't give them the time of day in and day out, and they get a call back from director level on up, like, where did you get these cookies?
Right.
I didn't know you liked me this much. And unfortunately, I think what we've done, so many times we've dumbed down the American taste bud, and the generation that I grew up in, and here's full disclosure: at age 16, my mother was New Jersey State cooking champion. Yeah, age 16. Yeah, and so obviously, maybe there's something in the DNA, that rubbed off on myself and my brother, who's 10 years my junior. But the fact is, those type of people don't exist, at least in the numbers that they did back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, that type of thing, for a lot of awful good reasons. But it's a fact. And so as a result, the number one selling cookie, in my understanding, in the United States is Oreos. Okay, made by Nabisco. Oreo, got it. All right. The second most highest selling cookie in the United States is Chips Ahoy. Now think if that's the baseline of what a chocolate chip cookie should taste like. Now, you go there and you go, what? And then you have, the next tier up, which quote unquote is a gourmet cup, and you'll have the famous Amos's of the world, the Churros of the world, the Mrs. Fields of the world. Just incredible cookies, relative to the baseline. Well, I believe that what I've created is a gourmet cookie on steroids.
Yes.
In the sense that, if you had the ability to create that cookie, this is what it would taste like.
Right.
And so I use only the best of ingredients. I use a proprietary baking and making process. And then there's that magic that only comes with being an accomplished baker.
And the magic is that we have run out of time. But this was
fabulous. I've talked to him.
No, you haven't. I loved it. I knew I hadn't talked to you before, but I knew that if you could make a batch of cookies and put them in a box like that, you had to be special. And I've been thrilled with this. I will get back in touch with you, but thank you, and we'll be sending you some copies of our magazine.
You are so kind, and again, only the best of my wishes to all of your listening audience for the holidays coming up.
All right, and everyone, just put this down, MrNelsonsCookies.com. Remember, this is radio. This is Pencil Talk Radio, so you got to write that down so you don't forget it. Thanks so much again. I really appreciate talking to you, Francis.